Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for today, Monday, April 15th, Tax Day 2019.
Sure is. Commissioner Garcia, James, Davis, and Caloza are present. President James, we do have a quorum. May we start with Bureau introductions, please, starting with Bureau of Sanitation.
Good morning, Hassan Rod, LA Sanitation.
Good morning, Assad Al-Najjar, Bureau of Street Lighting.
David Rivera, Streets LA.
Good morning, Kim Fitzpatrick, Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning, Chris Johnson, Bureau of Engineering.
Good morning, Ted Jordan, Public Works General Counsel.
Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. President James, we did receive one speaker card under general public comment. We also received a speaker card on item number 3, plus an email that came in this weekend that was been distributed to all commissioners on item number 3 as well. No other speaker cards has been received and no commentary under the Neighborhood Council commentary.
Okay, let's go ahead and take Mr. Sachs. General public comment. We'll get that taken care of this morning.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Thank you very much. Arnold Ross Sachs from Redondo Beach. Hope everybody had a good weekend. My general public comment refers to, actually, I was going to talk about something your neighborhood councils are going to do regarding impact statements. And I'm wondering, the impact statements refer to CEQA and all kinds of environmental reports. I have a real problem with that. I went to a county board meeting last week, and they did a CEQA report on an agenda item for the county at the museum, that they're going to tear down some buildings and then they're going to build brand new buildings at the LA County Museum over by La Brea and Wilshire. My problem is the CEQA reports that we're doing, we need to look at those in a whole new different light. I think I've been on a real educational tour going to some different meetings, and I've discovered some discrepancies in what people talk about and what actually happens. I think you need to readdress your CEQA attitude, because there's a real problem with what you're doing and what's happening with CEQA. I'm not going to get into all the particulars here. I could, but I'm just somewhat saying, shooting a warning sign, a shot. Somebody wants to say something to me, that's fine. My real concerns for the city and everybody else are, and I will talk about this hopefully tomorrow at the city council meeting, is for allegorical reasons and reality reasons, you need to stop the dumping at Sunshine Canyon landfill. Because once you fill that canyon up, there's no more sunshine. No more sunshine means no more light.
2 minutes.
And the other one is saving face for the city and the county. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. No other general public comment card. We'll close general public comment. And don't want to choke on my water. Let me go ahead and take care of our special presentation this morning, since it's one that I have wanted to do for some time. And I've got, oh no, Paul's here, so we're set. Good morning, colleagues, and everyone that are here this morning. I wanted to take the opportunity. Rivera, why don't you come around on this side, since it's your team that we're talking about this morning. One of the things that I talk about when I have the opportunity to speak to community organizations and to community groups in the city of Los Angeles is that there are a couple of the bureaus within the Department of Public Works that their name isn't necessarily self-explanatory. It's not necessarily self-explanatory of the broad work that they do. And that's true kind of with each of the bureaus of public works. And one of the things that I explain when I talk about Streets LA is that Streets LA and formerly the Bureau of Street Services, it's not just what most people might think the name describes, which is streets and sidewalks. It's also our urban canopy, and it's also our special events division. We have the special event permitting for the city finds its way through the Bureau of Street Services in many ways as one-stop shop for all of the entities that come to our incredible city for their worldwide well-known events and our world-class events in the city of Los Angeles. It's everything from what we're going to talk about this morning, the 2018 NBA All-Star Game, to the Academy Awards, which happen every single year, to the Los Angeles Marathon, and everything that keeps this very special division within Streets LA very, very busy. And we had, as many of you will recall, last year, it's been over a year now, but the NBA All-Star Weekend, and it was kind of a long weekend, but it was in early February of 2018. And during that weekend, we had tens of thousands of basketball fans that come primarily from all over the country, but some come internationally as well every year for what is a very large event. And cities every year compete for these events. And the NBA decides from this bid competition which cities they're going to select for various years. And there are a lot of reasons that cities want these events. And the reasons vary widely. Obviously, it brings a lot of attention to a city. And we are the best sports city. The Los Angeles Times in just the last 6 weeks had a front page on the California section story about how Los Angeles is the sports city for the next decade. And that, of course, leads into the 2028 Olympics. But Los Angeles becoming a great sports city, we always have been a great sports city when you look at our history. But this latest chapter, and the chapter that takes us into the future, really started with the 2018 NBA All-Star Game. And the story references the 2018 NBA All-Star Weekend. I remember when the city decided to bid on that, it was in 2014, 2015, about the same time that the city was really gearing up its kind of our outside team for the Olympics as well. And I had the opportunity to work on the bid documents that went to the NBA. And the NBA, they like to come to Los Angeles. There are always challenges with any of these major events. And it's Streets LA and our special events team, it's their job to make these events as successful and as seamless as possible. And we argue that because we have so many in the city of Los Angeles that no one does it quite like they do, meaning our Streets LA team. So when the bid was awarded, there was a press event, as you can imagine, at Staples Center with a couple of NBA players and the NBA commissioner. Adam Silver came out, and there was a small celebration about that. But then in comes the planning. And one of the things that we have done in this administration for planning these events is we often will set up a task force for some of these big, long weekend events, these major events, if you will. The task force is really kind of led by our Streets LA Special Events Division. And David Rivera and Gary Harris, Chief Harris, I don't know how many of those task force meetings the two of you attended or or with maybe even another representative from Streets LA, but there were a number of them, and they kind of start out every 3 or 4 months, and then they get more frequent as the event happens. But we are coordinating, and it really is kind of a great example of collaboration in government, because you see every city department that has anything to do with these events working together to make the event a success. The event brings, and there are economic studies that are done for these events, and the event for Los Angeles, well over $100 million. I think off the top of my head, my recollection was it's $116 million of economic activity, much of it to the downtown region, of course, but there were events all over the city. And you can imagine the coordination that it takes to put on that event. And it happens kind of for us during awards, what the entertainment industry will call award season. It's after the Golden Globes, but before the Grammys. And the Grammys, of course, also have the campus at LA Live. And in 2018, the NBA All-Star Game was there. So one way to coordinate that was that one year the Grammys took the opportunity to take the 60th anniversary to go to New York. But then again, of course, they came right back to Los Angeles for the next 4 years because we do it the best right here in Los Angeles. And this team that we're going to recognize today did just amazing work. I was nervous with the weekend coming on. And people are starting to arrive in town. We had all kinds of things that I don't want to spend too much time, because I've already gone on too long, too much time getting into the weeds about the kind of level of work that it takes to be successful with one of these events. But one of the things that you have to do, and I'll just tell a couple of stories, is create what the industry now calls, and the event industry will call, a clean zone. And a clean zone is whenever these major events will come to a city, they want to make sure that those that would try to take illegal advantage of trademarks aren't able to kind of jump in and sell their wares that are not legal, don't have the right trademark. That's an example of what a clean zone is. Our team enforces those clean zones in cooperation with other governmental agencies. We, of course, had Homeland Security, and the kind of event that it was, there was federal security, and there were a number of security concerns anytime you have as many high-profile individuals that are going to be in one place at one time. And keep in mind a complicating factor that they all had to deal with. This was the first event of its magnitude that occurred after the Vegas shooting. The Vegas shooting, which was the largest shooting of its kind, unfortunately, in American history. And remember that setting. It's a campus-type setting where you have an area where people gather and tall buildings that were around it. And the gunman was able to break the windows and then have his way with the audience that were there. And the horror everybody remembers. Well, we're very aware of what the LA Live campus is. It's the exact same type of setting. So you can imagine the national security concerns for the attendees of that event that took place. So there's just a lot of coordination that had to happen. This team did an incredible job with all of that coordination. And such an incredible job that there are two things that I wanted to have written into each of these certificates. And one of them was from the manager of Staples Center. And Lee Zeidman is well known in our city. He's very involved in the community, as you can imagine. He was in the news a lot just last week around the Nipsey Hussle celebration of life that took place. Lee Zeidman's been there, I think, maybe since Staples Center's inception. So you can imagine the number of events that he's seen, including prior All-Star Game weekends in prior years. And the morning after the weekend was over, there was this glowing email that you just don't get from the Lee Zeidmans of the world. And I don't mean that as a pejorative to him. It's just that he's somebody who's in many ways a perfectionist and certainly knows how to be a critic of things that go wrong. And Lee Zeidman talked a lot about just how tremendous, I'm quoting now, tremendous, seamless, and smooth this event went. And it really was. The other thing that you don't necessarily get is a tweet from the commissioner of the NBA. Well, I guess the commissioner of the NBA probably tweets a lot, but he doesn't tweet at us very often. And if you want to find out that your friends from high school or college might actually be paying attention to something you're doing in life, if the NBA commissioner tweets you, you will hear from your friends from high school and college that think, is that you that the NBA commissioner tweeted? So, yes, that was me. And the reason is because Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, said, and I quote, "Every NBA owner wants to have the All-Star game in their home city. Otherwise, they want it to be in Los Angeles." That's the best compliment that you could get from the NBA. They told us, off the record, most successful, best NBA weekend that they've ever had. So that is in large part due to the hard work of the individuals that I want to recognize today. And we'll start with David Rivera, who I would like to say a couple of words. And then, David, we have the representatives of your team that you sent their names as well. And then a few words from our general manager of Streets LA, and then we'll hand these out.
Thank you, President James and Commissioners. Thanks. It was a very good compliment that you paid us and that the NBA paid to us. It was an interesting weekend, I should say a couple weeks before also. But I can't do it without our staff. We have the special event staff. The people that we're naming today are the investigators who were actually doing some of the work out there in conjunction with the FBI, Homeland Security, and also LAPD. The behind-the-scenes staff, which is our special event staff, I want to mention them by name, would be like Stephanie McFadden, Manuel Perez, Andrea Garcia, and Joy Bryant. And then we have some clerical staff as well, Susie Velasquez and Simon Kwok. So without them also, I want to recognize them. But I really appreciate this, and hopefully we'll look to many more.
Thank you, Dave. I'm sure I call him Rivera. I just do, and I'm sure Rivera was tired of those phone calls that were happening kind of all the time. But through that, developed a great working relationship. And David, let me just tell you, you and your team were a complete pleasure to work with. Adele?
Good morning, Adel Haj Khalil with Streets LA. Just want to echo, first of all, I want to thank you, President James, for all what you do for the city and for us. Just getting and trusting us in serving the city and serving our customers in a way that's for us is something that's inside our DNA. We do that every day. But thank you for trusting us, and thanks to the mayor and to everyone for trusting Streets LA and the great men and women of Streets LA and the work they do. To me, I know we talk about the NBA, we talk about the marathon, and this is something we take pride in the service we do. But the same service that we do is the same service we do to every customer, every resident, every business owner in the city. These guys that you see here are solving issues, resolving problems, issuing permits, ensuring the balance between the business, the construction, and the user of our streets. It's being done by these great men and women that we have. So the same service we do for the NBA, the marathon, and every special event, we do for our residents the same way. And that training it's amazing. I mean, for us to go through this doesn't happen often, but in LA, this is something that these guys take pride in. I'm so proud of each one of them. I'm so proud of our department, how we work together. The trust that you guys have put in us is that we take that seriously. But I know I met with many of these fine civil servants, and they take pride in the work they do every day. And I know each one of them by name. I worked with them on many of the issues, whether it's the Hollywood walkability. We've worked hard to ensure that the Hollywood Walk of Fame is safe for people to walk. We're dealing now with vending, and these same members of Streets LA are working hard with the vending community, with the business community, with everyone, trying to balance and ensure that the laws are being complied with. At the same time, the businesses are still able to survive. The customers and the residents and the visitors are able to use the streets. So to me, it's just amazing. And I wanted to be here to thank you, first of all, President James, but also to acknowledge David and Gary and all the team members. I'm so proud of each one of them. Each one of them is special. And today, actually this morning, I welcomed 22 new workers in Streets LA. 2 weeks ago, we welcomed 40 roughly. So every 2 weeks, we have a new. And the thing I talk about is our culture of service, culture of ethics, integrity. But at the end of the day, it's all about representing the city and be the ambassadors of the city in everything we do. That's the culture and the values we all have. And these guys here today are representing that. And I want to thank them. I want to thank you. And we look forward to continuing this as we move to 2024, 2026, 2028. And hopefully the city will continue to be the world-class city that it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Adele. I also wanted to say to all of you, you've created some extra work for yourselves in the coming years because of what happened in 2018, we're able to use that, and we do use that, and the model that we created for a number of the other bids that we have that we send out to organizations for special events. The reason for the LA Times story was because of the timeline of incredible events that are coming to our city. The U.S. Open, golf is on front of mind for everyone right now with Tiger Woods' incredible win last night. The U.S. Open is going to be here in 2023. That bid occurred after the, we got that after the NBA All-Star game. When you look at the Super Bowl is coming, the College Football Playoff National Championship is coming. There are, the World Cup, by the way, in 2026, leading up to the Olympics. And right now we're working on the Rugby Sevens, which is also a big event. So kind of everybody that has any kind of sports championship wants to be in the city, and it's because of the great work that you all are doing in street services. So let me go through the list and hand these out. But before I do so, let me read what's on their certificate. A certificate of recognition, the Board of Public, by the way, just one last thing. After the weekend that happened, and I spoke to the mayor said, so who's in charge of that? He wanted to know, and I'm not going to say which other departments he wondered, but I said, well, it was our special events team from Street Services, because it was, again, seamless, terrific, and smooth. So I wanted to share that as well. But I got the arm squeeze and got to say that it was, well, of course, sir, it was our team. Certificate of recognition, the Board of Public Works hereby recognizes the outstanding work and accomplishment of David Rivera in significantly contributing and this is on all of them, of course, and significantly contributing to the delivery of an incredible 2018 NBA All-Star Game weekend that Staples Center management called, quote, tremendous, seamless, and smooth, close quote. As a result of your hard work, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver stated publicly that, quote, every NBA owner wants to have the All-Star Game in their home city, otherwise they want it to be in Los Angeles, close quote. The Department of Public Works publicly acknowledges your outstanding work on this event. And it's signed, of course, by the Board of Public Works. Where's Paul? So we'll start with David Rivera, then we'll go to Elvin Galindo. Elvin Galindo, and then Arnaldo Avila. Although I do have them in the same order. Elvin, how are you, sir?
Thank you, sir.
Good to see you.
Appreciate it.
Arnaldo Avila. How are you, sir? William Cadena. And then Carrie Damasio. And then after Carrie, I've got John Duncanson. Hi, Tim, how are you? Good to see you. John Duncanson and then Karen Kishida. Although now I'm out of order. Okay. Okay, John Duncanson's in training. Okay, so you'll take for Duncanson. How about the first one? Okay, all right. Milan Romero. Frank Martinez. And after Frank, Gerardo Rodriguez. See you, sir. Gerardo Rodriguez, okay. Antoine Sims. And Charles Smith. And Richard Villalobos, last but not least. Got it? Okay, great. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Garcia?
Yes. President James, thank you. This is a very nice recognition to know that our Bureau of Street Services is doing such a great job during our special events. I've seen personally under the leadership of Adele, the shift that has happened with customer services. And what you said up there, Adele, is absolutely true. You are doing it not only for the big events, but you also take good care of our one-time residents, our customers that are, have an issue with their front sidewalk or their street. I've seen it firsthand, the shift that has happened. And I'm very proud of you, Adele, as a leader, as a director of this bureau, because, I can see the fluency now in working with your department. Thank you for that. It's always about leadership. And so when the leader acts that way, everybody else will as well. So thank you for that. And I just have to say, Mr. Rivera, that your work out there when we have these big events like the marathon that we just had a couple of weeks ago, and all the other stuff that we in LA do that we appreciate and we're known for, you take care of all of the signage, the pre-work and the post-work, because then after that we clean up the streets too as well. So it's a full-on service that we do for these big special events that our community, our residents really enjoy. So to all of you, Bureau of Street Services or Streets LA, the new name, congratulations. You're all doing such a great job out in our community. Thank you for that.
If you give me a chance, let me recognize Gary Harris. When you talk about leadership, it's not just me, it's all across the organization, and we have great leaders, but also we have very committed, hard-working men and women that we have. But I want to acknowledge Gary for the work he's been doing every day, so thank you.
Gary, stay right there. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. First, I want to thank our president, who is the first chair on street services. And believe it or not, even though you don't see me often, I'm the second chair on it for the board. And I want to thank him because I think recognizing the work that Gary and David Rivera and all of those of you who are here, the work that you do is critically important. We are a big city. And as a result of that, you have your day-to-day activities that you routinely help citizens with in terms of blocking off streets for neighborhood festivals and that kind of thing. But as a result of being a big city, we are also an environment that has big events. And so it's very comforting to know that we have a competent and efficient staff that's able to manage those huge and big events. People expect to come to Los Angeles not only because of the weather, but because we are a multicultural city, we are a dynamic city, we are at a center of entertainment. Of course, Kevin is also working on trying to bring more film here as well and manage and keep those. But because of who we are, it is so critically important that we have a team like you to be able to manage what it takes to create quality of life in a big city like ours. And so again, I commend Kevin for that, and it's really great to know that our external partners, those who come to our city to do business, feel the same way that we do, that we have one of the best staffs in the country, and we would not expect any less because of who we are. So Kevin, I thank you for this recognition, the work that you've done with the memorial services for Nipsey Hussle, which in addition to just being an event, we know that the dynamics of inner city events such as that is truly a challenge in security as well. And to have been able to manage that, I mean, it was a lot of prayer involved in that, but we did that. And then further, to have been able to manage one of the biggest sports events in the All-Star Weekend also, it's just a reflection of the efficiency and the effectiveness that you guys bring to the table. And of course, finally, I will say, we have other cities that are competing with us and being able to do something like this, from Las Vegas, which unfortunate for them, but we have New York, we have Miami, we have other bigger cities, but I think that we stand top among all of them. And again, once again, thank you for the great service that you provide this city.
Thank you. And before we take a quick photo and get back to our scheduled agenda, Chief Harris, let me just say to you, I know that given your position, this is one of the divisions you oversee. Thank you for the continuity that you provided. As you know, Adele started as general manager October 1st. The continuity that you provided during the transition period was stellar. And thank you to you. And obviously, this is your team as well, and we certainly appreciate your leadership. And I feel bad there wasn't a certificate. Do we have a?
We'll give them.
Oh, okay. Yeah. How did we not get Chief Harris? Although.
Well, thank you, Commissioner, but I did want to make one note.
But we didn't give one to Adele either. For the senior guys. Go ahead, sir.
I wanted to join in appreciating the team by mentioning one thing that wasn't mentioned. These same people that work these events on nights and weekends and all the off hours and holidays, these are our same Monday through Friday, 5-day-a-week staff that's doing their regular job. But in addition, voluntarily, they go out at these other hours to help us make these events a success. We are the smallest division within the Bureau of Street Services, so we are always challenged on having the personnel resources. But because of the dedication of our staff and because of people like these who are willing to give more than their share to help us, we're still able to succeed even with limited resources. So I really want to say thank you and say my appreciation to staff for stepping up every time we call on them, even though I know they want to spend time with their families, and some of those weekends and nights are tough for them. When they know we need people, they show up, they do the job, and as has been attested to here, they do it well. So thank you.
And Gary, how many those meetings, the Congo Room, Dodger Stadium, how many of the lunch meetings, afternoon meetings, evening meetings, you attended a number of those meetings for NBA All-Star. So thank you for that as well. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So we'll take, since, Paul, we'll go back there since there are so many of them and they're already back there, and then we'll take a quick photo and return to our agenda. Dr. Campos, let's take agenda item number 5, Authority for Expenditure, Southern California Gas Company. Sanitation and Office of Accounting are requesting board approval and execution of an authority for expenditure in the adjusted amount of $825,000 to pay natural gas charges for building, heating, boilers, and Hyperion bioenergy facility operations at Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant. The current encumbrance is $425,000. The increase request is for $400,000 to bring the total encumbered amount to $825,000. This authority is requested for the period of July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Sharuza Sanei, Senior Engineer, Sanitation, Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant. We are requesting board approval and execution of authority for an expenditure in the amount of $400,000 to pay for national gas fees. The plant uses natural gas for heating building, boilers, and operation of Hyperion bioenergy facility. So this would bring the total encumbered amount to $825,000 for this fiscal year.
Okay, this is, and is this consistent with what we're spending? It's a $425,000.
The total is $825,000. The majority of it is for transportation costs. When we pay to Southern California Gas Company, when they use alternate vendors to pay and access to their infrastructure and piping system.
Okay. Hang on just a minute.
So this would be the same for the future, almost, depending on the natural gas price.
Okay, any questions? I don't have any questions. Commissioner Garcia.
Have we paid this before, or is this something
We
new?
have paid it, but since the transportation costs was planned to be paid by the vendor, there has been a change of plan. But from now on, we are going to pay, Hyperion is going to pay, and it's going to be almost the same amount in the future.
Okay, so the increase is because we are now taking over the transportation costs?
We didn't have enough money in the funding, so we had to encumber whatever we had, which was $400,000, and later we had to transfer fund from other accounts. That's why the total is $825, and we have to adjust it, but it won't happen in the future. Because
Thank you.
I think that the crux of it, though, is regarding, never mind the encumbrances and when they're happening, we're spending about the same amount annually.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That's what was confusing here.
Yes.
So encumbrances may happen at different times.
Yes.
But for the year, we're
Yes.
spending roughly the same amount we spend each year.
Exactly.
That's what threw us off.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
So no other questions. I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 5, seconded by Commissioner Garcia. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 5. Any issue saying number 5 forthwith? We'll send number 5 forthwith. Dr. Campos, could you come here a second? Thanks. I've got 2 different agenda forms for some reason. But let's go with this one and see how it goes. Number 5. This says it's number 5 anyway. Authority for Expenditure, California Association of Sanitation Agencies, Bureau of Sanitation and Office of Accounting requesting board approval and execution of an authority for expenditure in the amount of $27,851 to pay for the 2019 California Association of Sanitation Agencies membership renewal. CASA provides educational opportunities to stay current on the latest trends, regulations, and technologies, as well as network with our leading resource professionals. Ms. Jones, and we have been members of CASA for a long time, correct?
More than 20 years.
More than 20 years. All right, go ahead, ma'am.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Christina Becerra-Jones. I am an Environmental Engineering Associate with the Regulatory Affairs Division in LA Sanitation and Environment. I am here today for LA Sanitation to request approval for the payment of $27,851 to California Association of Sanitation Agencies for the annual membership dues. This would be for the membership due period between January 1st, 2019 and December 31st of 2019. CASA is an organization that represents publicly owned treatment works throughout the state of California, and they do a lot of legislative and regulatory work and a form of advocacy as well as education, and they also keep an eye on emerging issues that we will see in our treatment facilities, and we have a lot of involvement in the board. Our COO, Tracy Minamidi, is currently the president of the board of directors, and myself, I'm on a committee, going to be becoming the co-chair of that committee, and many other employees have involved membership as well. And I can answer any questions.
Yes, thank you. Is our membership rate, does it vary kind of year to year? Are we on a percentage, a small percentage sliding scale up just for COLA type increases, or?
Somewhat like that. Membership fees have to be approved by the membership. So at the annual conference in, I think it was August, the membership designated people to vote, and they voted on an increase. The increase was 4%, and it was consistent with CPI, and it was just to increase. It hasn't increased since 2016 before that.
Okay, so it hasn't increased since 2016?
No.
Okay.
It is based on operation and maintenance budgets of the organization.
Okay. But the increase was 4%?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 5, seconded by Commissioner Davis. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any issue sending number, first of all, any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 5. Any issue sending number 5 forthwith? We will send number 5 forthwith. Agenda item number 4, capital improvement project, Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant Service Water Facility Improvements, recommending that the board reject all bids for the above-named project and request the city engineer to re-advertise the project at a later date. Mr. Cirillo, you're here on number 4 and number 3, but we'll take number 4 first. It's going to be short.
Yes, should be. Good morning, Mike Cirillo with the Bureau of Engineering. This is a motion to reject bids for Project 2481 Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant Service Water Facility Improvements. The city engineer's estimate was $1.9 million, and this project was to enhance the service water facility. And what the service water facility does is it produces high-quality reclaimed water for use at DGUP and throughout other uses in the plant. We got 5 bids for this project. However, the bids were much higher than the city engineer's estimate. They ranged from $2.8 million to $4.2 million. So we think we can go back and clarify some things in the bid documents to bring the bids in lower. So we'd like the opportunity to reject the bids, go back, clean up the contract documents, take about 3 to 4 months, and then re-advertise the project and hopefully receive lower bids. And I've verified with the Bureau of Sanitation that they're okay with deferring it for 3 to 4 months. It won't be any impacts to their operations. So with that, that's our request, and I'll take any questions.
Okay. Commissioner Caloza.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for presenting today. Can you just also clarify for the board why some of the estimates of the contractors might be a little bit higher? I think, there's some mention of, increase in prices for the raw materials as it relates to some of the tariffs that have been impacted.
Sure. So there was a number of reasons after we went back and we looked at the bids and compared it to our cost estimate. There was some increases in, as you mentioned, raw material costs such as steel that were not caught in the estimate. There was also some sole source items in our contract that we did not single out in our bid form. We think those prices came in high. And frankly, we looked at our estimate, and there were some problems that we had missed a few items. So the combination of those three things resulted in our estimate being off, but we do think we can obtain lower bids if we re-advertise.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner Garcia has made a motion that we adopt agenda item number 4, seconded by Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 4. Thank you, sir.
Great, thank you.
Any issues saying number 4 forthwith? We'll send number 4 forthwith. Agenda item number 1, Bureau of Street Services, our Streets LA team. This is in Council District 9, a tree removal at 3330 South Figueroa Street on 31st West Street. Recommending that the board first certify that the board has reviewed and considered the information in the addendum to the initial study, the negative declaration for the street vacation. This is West 33rd Street between Figueroa Street and Flower Street. Is this the Felix Chevrolet area?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you, Hector. And find the information contained therein appropriately addresses the requested tree removals. Secondly, find that the project will not have a significant environmental effect under the above described addendum to the initial study and the negative declaration. We'll call it the negative declaration. As the imposition of the mitigation measures described in the addendum to the negative declaration and incorporated herein as have been incorporated herein as project conditions such that there is no substantial evidence the proposed project will have a significant effect on the environment pursuant to the city's environmental guidelines and is in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act. 3, find that the projects conflict with any local policies or ordinances protecting biological resources, such as tree preservation policies or other ordinances, is less than significant with the incorporation of mitigation measures under Biological Resources Section 5.0 as contained in the addendum to the initial study negative declaration. 4, specify that Street Services Urban Forestry Division located at 1149 South Broadway is custodian of the documents or other material that constitute the record of proceedings upon which the board's decision is based. And 5th, approve the request for a fee tree removal permit for the removal of 5 California palm trees. Tree replacements are required. Mr. Benuelos, on number 1.
Yes, good morning, President James, Commissioners, Bureau Representatives, City Attorney, Dr. Campos. Hector Banuelos with Streets LA, Urban Forestry Division. We have before us is a request to remove 5 California palm trees for required repairs of infrastructure around the location at 3330 South Figueroa. The 5 palm trees are located on the 31st Street side of the project and they're growing. They girdled them. The trees, it's unknown how they were planted. And their exact placement. However, currently the tree's trunk are girdling over the curb to between 6 to a little more than a foot, 12 inches. And if the curb repairs are performed, it will significantly affect the tree's structural integrity and also their health. You know, the Streets LA has worked with the Bureau of Engineering and trying to come up with some alternative means on how we can retain the trees, and including bulb outs and street reconfiguration. However, when we're studying these alternatives, it just did not seem feasible, and so therefore the trees must be removed in order for the applicant to comply with the requirements for the street vacation. With that, the Streets LA is requesting the board approve the request for removal of 5 palms so that the applicant can comply with the required street improvements. Pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, the Bureau of Engineering prepared a negative declaration and an addendum to the negative declaration of the initial study for the Streets LA reviewed the project addendum and determined the tree removals and replacements were appropriately addressed. If approved, the applicant shall plant 10 24-inch box-sized trees and water the trees for a minimum of 3-year period. The 9th Council District and the Community Forestry Advisory Committee and the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment were informed of the proposed tree removals. Any questions?
Mr. Benuelos, just a couple of things, pro forma pretty much, just things I like on the oral record. Your team confirmed that the tree removals addressed in the environmental document match with the tree removal request that we have in front of us, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And just to put an exclamation point on the tree replacements, we are replacing how many trees where?
10 trees. There's room around the whole facility for tree planting. We determined that there's room for at least 2 trees to be planted on 31st Street side, possibly 3, and the remainder of the trees to be planted along Figueroa.
Along what?
Figueroa Street.
Okay. Species?
London plane, the Platanus hispanica.
Okay. Okay on sidewalks?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 1, seconded by Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 1. Thank you, sir. Any issue sending number 1 forthwith? We will send number 1 forthwith. Agenda item number 2, contract acceptance, Venice wastewater collection yard demolition. Recommending that the board not assess national demolition contractors with a penalty in the amount of $23,847.46 for the unapproved subcontractor use of one bid-listed OBE subcontractor. Secondly, accept the contract. And third, instruct the director of the Office of Accounting to disencumber the amount of $23,724.72 from the project fund to release the remaining funds of $23,724.72 to the contractor. Mr. Pattison on number 2. This is to not assess a penalty.
That is correct, sir. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. John Pattison with the Bureau of Contract Administration. Bear with me for a second while I have a technology issue and try to pull up the bid review or the acceptance review memo for that. Failing this one, off the top of my head, the contractor for this national demolition, correct? So contract acceptance, do not assess national demolition contractors with a penalty in the amount of $23,847.46. When National Demolition was bid and awarded this contract, they had selected one of the subcontractors on their approved Schedule A to perform work. I believe it was all corn fence on this project. Typically, contractors are required to submit their actual working state licensed subcontractors for approval prior to those subcontractors performing work on site. National demolition contractors did not do that. They had believed that Alcorn Fence was approved to work on this job. The reason being for that belief was that the Bureau of Contract Administration, the bureau that actually does approve the subcontractors to work on the job, had previously provided them with a document stating that here is a list of your approved subcontractors. With respect to that, Bureau of Contract Administration was letting National Demolition know that these are the contractors that are approved to your Schedule A. We were not giving them approval for those contractors to work or those subcontractors to work on site. National Demolition, that was their understanding, was that these subcontractors were now approved. This was an emergency contract, so they believed that these subcontractors on their schedule were approved to work on site. They did not subsequently request approval for Alcorn Fence. Alcorn Fence got the work. We confirmed that they did get the work that they were bid listed for. They just were not approved to work on site by our Special Research and Investigation Unit, which is the unit that would normally be approving subcontractor requests. Because the Bureau of Contract Administration had previously told National Demolition, here is your list of approved subcontractors, we are recommending that they not be assessed a penalty in the amount of $23,847.46. That we instruct the Director Office of Accounting to disencumber the amount of $23,724.72 from the project fund and release the remaining funds in that amount to the contractor.
Okay. Any questions on that? I know it's a unique request. I don't anticipate any objection from the contractor. Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you, President James. I just have a basic, although I support what you're doing, my question is, has Alcorn Fence now gone through the process to be approved by us to be a subcontractor in the future?
Well, they are on National Demolition's approved list of contractors. So if there are other contracts, this was bid off a much larger contract, like an emergency on-call list. If National Demolition does receive a contract off that list, they're aware that, yes, they do need to submit a proper request to have their working subcontractors.
Alcorn Fencing. Oh,
Alcorn Fence is the subcontractor. The request to approve comes from the prime contractor.
Okay.
So National Demolition was supposed to request from the Bureau of Contract Administration approval for their bid-listed subcontractors to work on the job.
Right. I'm just wondering if Alcorn Fence has now is or will try to go through the process to become also certified through us. Is that something?
The certification is something different to what we're talking about here.
Got it. Okay, no, I'm fine with it.
Great, thank you. That'll be a motion by Commissioner Garcia. I'll second it along with Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 2. Any issues sending number 2 forthwith? We'll send number 2 forthwith. Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Agenda item number 3, Council District 11 contract award. Is that all that we have left, Dr. Campos? Is number 3 in our meeting minutes?
I believe the minutes.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and approve our meeting minutes from the meeting of Friday, March 8th, 2019. Commissioner Caloza seconded the motion. Any objection that we approve those? No objection. Those meeting minutes are approved. Contract award number 3, agenda item, Council District 11, Hyperion Water Reclamation Project, primary tanks B0, B5, and C0 upgrades, and Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant primary tanks skimmer improvements, and plant primary influent sluice gates. Recommending that the board first declare Myers & Sons Construction apparent first low bidder to be non-responsive as discussed in the report. Secondly, declare Murray Plumbing and Heating Corporation, doing business as Murray Company, we'll call them Murray, the apparent second low bidder that became the first low bidder for bid evaluation purposes after the local bid preference was applied, to be the lowest responsive responsible bidder, and award Murray the contract for the project for $18,356,566. And third, authorize myself or 2 members of the board to execute the contract after approval as to form has been obtained from the city attorney. Mr. Cirillo, we'll start with you. The only card I have on the matter is from Clinton Myers. So if anybody else was here to speak on the matter, they need to put in a card. But we have Mr. Myers' card. Mr. Cirillo, go ahead, sir.
Okay, good morning. Mike Cirillo with the Bureau of Engineering. The title is a mouthful, partly because we're combining 3 projects in the primary battery tanks, and we bid them as one contract. So I'd like to give just a little overview on what the primary tanks are, just so everybody has some context. So in the wastewater treatment process, the wastewater enters the plant. It goes through what's known as the headworks and screening facility. The next process is what's called our grit basins, where all the inorganic material like rocks and things drop out. The immediate process right after that is called the primary battery tanks, or primary batteries. And this is where you get the first removal of organic material and scum from the collection. So it's a critical process in the wastewater treatment process, but I just like to frame it so you understand what we're talking about. So in those tanks, you have a series of collectors which rotate and scrape the bottom of the tank, and you have scum collection equipment on the top which takes the scum. You have pumps, and you have sluice gates or slide gates which control the flow by opening and closing. All of that stuff in all these tanks is all corroded and old and needs to be replaced. We didn't upgrade it, I think the last time was about 20 years ago since we touched it. So we designed 3 projects, bid them all as one, and that's the project we're here to talk about. The city engineer's estimate for this project was $19.56 million. We received 6 bids. The first 2 bidders were Myers & Sons at $18.05 million and Murray Plumbing and Heating at $18.35 million. As indicated in the report, the minimum mandatory subcontracting minimum, MSM, was set at 15% for this contract. Myers did not comply with the MSM. They came in at 14.59, so short of the MSM. This deems their bid as non-responsive because this could potentially give them an advantage with their bid by omitting some subcontractors and failure to meeting the MSM. Additionally, at the time of bid, Murray was certified as a local business preference company and Myers was not. So the report also indicates if you apply the 8% discount to Murray's bid, they in essence become the low bidder on the contract. So BOE recommends that Myers be deemed non-responsive on this contract due to the failure to meet the MSM, and that we declare Murray the lowest responsive bidder at $18.3 million and award a contract to Murray. Now, I want to defer the details on the MSM and local business preference to Linda McGlinchey, if I can, and have her elaborate on that a little bit.
Ms. McGlinchey, welcome back.
Good morning. Linda McGlinchey, Bureau of Contract Administration. As Mr. Cirillo mentioned, Myers had listed 2 subcontractors on their list of subcontractors in their bid proposal documents. They, once we notified them that they had failed to meet the MSM, they stated that there was a third vendor that they had meant to list but did not. They claimed that they had a vendor listing of choices which they provided to us, but it was undated, so there was no corroboration of that happening prior to bid submission, stating that this vendor should have been on their list of subcontractors that they would be using them. However, when we performed our BIP evaluation, that same subcontractor that they referred to was on their BIP summary sheet, and the day prior to bids being due, they modified their summary sheet stating that they had received a bid and that sub was not selected. So if in fact they had intended to use them and get credit for them, at a minimum they should have modified that summary sheet again after bid submission, but before the deadline for modifying the summary sheet to show that they had in fact selected and chosen them. But the documentation we had was contrary to that. So based on that, based on the fact that their bid proposal document was very clear in that you must list subcontractors and subcontract dollar amounts in order to meet the MSM, and their failure to do that is the reason why we are recommending that they be found non-responsive for MSM. In addition to that, as was stated, Murray is an LBE. When we applied the LBPP preference, Murray became the apparent low bidder for evaluation purposes. Myers, although they had submitted an affidavit prior to the due date, they did not qualify for LBE as they were headquartered in Sacramento. We've gone back and forth with them, and subsequently in February, they did resubmit another application for LBE, and that was after they had changed the structure of their company and moved their headquarters to LA County, which is ultimately what we really want with the LBE preference. But for the purposes of bid evaluations, we cannot accept a certification that happened after the fact.
Okay, so if I could just summarize quickly what I'm hearing, Ms. McGlinchey, on this. So Myers sounded like they were maybe a little late, not a little late, but they were late to the process on the LBE, but they did obtain LBE certification. So we certainly appreciate that. That'll benefit them going forward. But you indicated that they were unable to get everything in order to qualify for the matter that we're hearing today.
Correct. Not only were they unable to, at the time the bids came in, they in no way qualified as a local business. It was only after that they made the decision to move their headquarters and thus qualify themselves as a local business.
Okay. The mandatory subcontracting minimum on this is, we see 15% sometimes, but we see higher numbers as well. It was set, is it fair to say it was set a little lower on this project? Mike, MSM?
Yeah, I think for the size of the contract and the variety of work that's there and the opportunities for subcontractors, I would say 15% is probably lower than we normally set it, as you indicated.
All right, so they got close. I'm talking about Myers. But does it matter that they, is there, I've got a letter from their lawyer, and just to put something on the table before we hear from them, if they're short, is there some sort of competitive advantage they could get by leaving a vendor off of their list?
Well, if they intend on using a sub for that specific item of work, because they didn't list them, we don't know if they will potentially bid shop after the contract, or we're not really sure. They have some leverage to negotiate with whoever they plan on using, because when they list a sub at that amount, they must pay that firm that amount of money. That's why we make them list their subs. So
if they don't list them,
then we don't know what can happen.
You don't know what's happening after the fact.
That's right.
All right. Okay, any other questions of our representatives before we move to hear from Myers, and then we'll be back. All right, thank you both. Clinton Myers. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for having me, and congratulations on Commissioner Silver's comments. That's pretty cool.
Thank you.
So real quick, I'll just touch on a couple of those things. I think they did a pretty good job of explaining what went on. So yeah, basically, we made a clerical error. We didn't list a vendor, which was CapFlow, on bid day like we should have. We provided information, to the Bureau explaining what we did. Obviously, they still found that the information we provided wasn't good enough. In addition to the information we provided, though, we did escrow our bid docs with the Bureau.
You did, I'm sorry?
We escrowed our bid documents with the Bureau. Inside those bid documents, we have our cost report, we have CapFlow's quote, and we have CapFlow's DGS certification. So we would be happy to open those escrow documents with the Bureau so that they can see that it was our intention to use CapFlow. There's no bid advantage that we could have gotten on bid day by listing or not listing CapFlow. If anything, it was a disadvantage. CapFlow's they're a vendor, so we don't provide the services that they provide. We don't furnish the mechanical equipment and the valves that they provide. So we have to go out and get that, and procure that material, right? So for us to not list CapFlow brought us no advantage. There's no ability for us to self-perform the services that CapFlow provides. So for us, this is a clerical error. It's an error the city can waive. It's not something that gave us an advantage on bid day. In response to the local business certification, when we submitted our bid, said we were going to turn in for our LBE, and we got certified as an LBE. So I don't quite understand why the LBE preference doesn't apply here, but I probably don't know all the rules and regulations within the LBE preference. So I guess I would just close by saying, it was a clerical error that gave us no advantage on bid day. And, to me, the bigger issue for you guys to think about is when you take some of these waivable clerical errors and you choose to throw bidders out, it sets a precedence that second, third, and fourth place bidders see on future projects. It opens up bid protests. And it doesn't just cost the city $300,000 on this project. It opens you guys up for costing yourselves more money long-term on other projects. So I'll close with that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Davis, do you have a question for Mr. Myers or for our team?
Yeah, Mr. Myers, wanted to just briefly chat about the reporting, the process and procedures for doing business with the city, and briefly chat about LBE status. In terms of the first issue, in terms of the process and procedure that you as a prime contractor have to help execute, when doing business with the city of Los Angeles includes being able to list the businesses that you're going to do business with, correct?
Yes.
And then you're stating that there was a clerical error that was not fulfilled.
Yes.
So in that sense, because it was not fulfilled, then it put the department in the position of evaluating that error and having to also acknowledge the fact that others who were competing did fulfill their obligations in the same thing. So, we evaluated by one standard across the board for everyone. So if every other person who competed with you was able to follow that process and procedure, then it would certainly be unfair to them. Even though you made an error, and we're not saying people are not human. We realize that you're human, and I'm sure this is not your first project with the city of Los Angeles, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay, so that you do business with us on a regular basis, and we know people make error. However, when we're evaluating and assessing in terms of who can do business, we have to, at our core, be fair and just. So to not acknowledge the fact that others who competed followed through with the process and procedures would be unfair and unjust. The second issue is LBE status. At the time in which you did business with us, was your status that you were in the city of Los Angeles at that time or in this county at that time?
So the previous work that we've done and we continue to do for the city of Los Angeles was under a limited partnership.
Sure.
And we have a company that's a limited liability company, which is how we are currently procuring all of our work on a go-forward basis.
Sure.
And so we have a project at LAX right now. We have a $300 million enabling project. That's through our limited partnership. But our LLC currently doesn't have any work because we're just getting it. I'll take that back. It has a job with the county of Los Angeles.
So at the time that you were doing business, as it relates to this particular project, you didn't have an office here in the county at that particular time?
We did. We just hadn't gone through the certification process.
So you had not appropriately registered it. Is that correct?
Say that again?
You had not appropriately registered your presence, is what you're saying?
No, we had not gone through the certification process.
That's what I mean.
Yes, that's correct.
So that then you didn't appropriately process it. So as a failure of that, then evaluating you across the board with others who are also competing and upholding the fairness and justice that our system at the Contract Administration Division is responsible for. The others obviously did process that procedure. Obviously.
Well, at least second place did, right? We know that. I don't know that all.
I'm sorry.
All of them were
He said
local
at least
businesses.
second place did. At least the second place finisher did.
Yes. Right. So then you understand, as we evaluate this circumstance today, that it's really based upon fairness and justice to everyone. It's not singling you out, and it's not being insensitive about the fact that an error was made, but it is assessing and evaluating everybody who is competing at the same time. And it's very difficult to justify not acknowledging someone who has followed the process and procedures, as we have talked today about both the responsibility of a prime contractor to document appropriately, and you've done business with us before, and secondly, again, to document appropriately your status, because that's what's required. That is what your colleagues who are competing and doing business with the city are also doing. And so because we are going to be doing business again in the future, it is important that contract administration is an agency that has integrity, because when they fail to have integrity and I'm competing with you and I am not getting my fairness and justice, then it harms me. So we want to make sure that everybody who competes is treated fairly and just, and I think you understand that.
Well, I completely understand that, and I completely agree with you. And us making that clerical error, I mean, we acknowledge we made the error, no one else made the error, right? And we also acknowledge that we put the Bureau in a tough position to evaluate those bids when we make a clerical error, right? And we feel like we provided the backup to show you that it was, in fact, a clerical error, right? And what I'm saying is within within the case law that exists right now, it gives you guys the opportunity to take an error, say it was a clerical error, it didn't provide an advantage on bid day, and if it didn't provide an advantage on bid day, it's an error you guys can waive, but once again, it's your choice to do that or not do that, right?
But what I'm
I
saying
completely
to you
understand
is
where you're coming from.
Certainly, fairness and justice ought to be at the core of the decision that we make, and I think that is something that has to be considered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Thank you, Mr. Myers. Mr. Cirillo and Ms. McGlinchey. So, to the points made by both Mr. Myers and Commissioner Davis, if I'm counting, we would need to waive two things to get. You can waive one or the other, I suppose, but no, you need to waive two of them. So we've got the MSM issue and we've got the LBE issue. For that reason, Commissioner, I can see we do occasionally under circumstances provide waivers that were allowed on occasion under the law. I'm not sure, though, what's the case, Mr. Jordan,
I think you're referring to the Galati brothers case.
Galati, I knew it was a G. The Galati case, I was going to call it Guano, but the Galati case. And we've had the case, it's a California case, that's been used in our hearings a number of times over the years. And I'm not comfortable enough, given what we heard from Mr. Cirillo and Ms. McGlinchey, to waive the MSM requirement and to make a determination that there would be no potential advantage. I take Mr. Myers' point at his word. I don't think that's what they were looking for, but I don't feel like independently I have enough to waive the MSM under that. And then to also add the LBE. And Mr. Myers, I want you to know we're thrilled that you are a registered LBE with the city, and we look forward to doing more business with you. But to Commissioner Davis's point on the LBE, our council made a decision that the city is willing to spend a certain percentage up to a ceiling amount of money, which this is under, for those that already are LBEs, and I think it would be unfair to the other side potentially to step away from that. So, Commissioner Davis, my motion would be to go with the recommendation of engineering and contract administration here.
I'd have to second that motion, not emotion, but that motion. And I am emotional that they were here but just didn't process the paperwork. But at the same time, I cannot jeopardize someone whose paperwork was processed. So that's the emotional part. But the decision, unfortunately, has to be to support those who did have everything in order at that time, because that's what we do. So I second that motion.
Thank you, sir. And just for the record, because I know this, I think I know this from one of my briefings on the matter. Ms. McGlinchey, once Myers submitted their LBE documentation, that was expedited by the Bureau of Contract Administration, or was it not?
Yes, it was.
Okay. I just didn't want there wasn't a claim that we were slowness from our side. Mr. Myers says we weren't. And I just appreciate the fact that Contract Administration did expedite it, but we still weren't quite there. So any objection to the motion in the second? That'll be the order on number 3. Any issue sending it forthwith? We'll send it forthwith. Thank you, sir. Thank you both. That'll be the order on agenda item number 3. Dr. Campos, have we cleared the desk this morning?
Yes, you have.
Okay, then we are adjourned this Wednesday morning. Thank you, everyone.